Hello, hello. I'm so excited for y'all to listen to this episode today with Jaclyn. Jaclyn is a therapist in private practice, and she's definitely on the more established side of things. She started her private practice in 2020 and had an insurance-based practice. And 4 years later, decided that she wanted to start working towards private pay. So she joined the Reels membership and started marketing herself on Instagram. I really love this episode because Jaclyn did not have overnight success by any means. She spent over a year in the Reels membership, posting consistently, growing to over 2,000 followers, but still had not gotten any therapy clients from Instagram until she joined PPA in June of 2025, and things started to shift. 9 months later, she's gotten 29 clients from Instagram directly. And this has been a mix of EMDR intensives, private pay clients for her, and insurance clients for her associate. And I think that this is just such a wonderful episode in sort of like the strategy that goes into converting clients from Instagram compared to growth, and how this sort of looks different depending on if your goals are getting EMDR intensives, clients for yourself, or clients for an associate. Jaclyn has really managed to do it all with Instagram and simultaneously really taking a step back from needing to post so frequently and being so on all of the time. I think that this is a wonderful, wonderful episode in what happens when you niche down, when you get personalized feedback, when you learn to think like a business owner and really like hone in on your marketing strategy. So much is possible, and the right results can happen really quickly with the right changes. And yeah, I'm excited to dive in. Let's get to it.
Hey, it's so good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Amazing. So tell folks like who you are, where they can find you, what sort of clients that you work with.
Sure. I'm Jaclyn Sappah. I'm an EMDR and trauma therapist, and I see clients in California, New York, and North Carolina. And I like to work with women who have experienced childhood trauma and are having trouble finding themselves, reconnecting with themselves, often ending up in toxic relationships. That's kind of my vibe. And I also have a group practice in North Carolina where I have a couple other therapists working for me and doing similar things: EMDR, brain spotting, yoga therapy, that kind of thing.
Amazing. So I know you started your like therapy Instagram a little bit over 2 years ago now. I'm
Mhm.
curious if you started your private practice around the same time, or like what sort of motivated you to get started on Instagram?
Yeah, so I started my private practice in 2020. I
Okay.
started virtually. It was kind of like something I'd thought about over the years, and then pandemic happened, so jumped right into the virtual therapy game. And then I was insurance based for
Yeah.
a few years, right? So then it was what, 2023 or 2024. Um, yeah, it was January of 2024 that I joined the Reels membership, and it was just kind of, I wanted something different. I didn't want to be full time insurance based caseload until the end of time. I wanted more freedom, more, to do whatever kind of creative projects I wanted to do and just not do one on one therapy all the time. So I started thinking about ways to become private pay. And so that's where I got into the Instagram stuff. And then I came across the Reels membership.
Very cool.
Yep.
When you were insurance based, where were most of your clients coming from?
So because I'm licensed in New York, California, North Carolina, a lot of them initially were New York.
Yeah.
That was kind of like my main, like probably 75% of my caseload was New York. And then over time, probably about half was New York, and then half, like a quarter California, quarter North Carolina.
And mostly coming from like directories, your website, referrals.
So mostly coming from Alma. I
Okay.
was with Alma, so to go through insurance, and I did a lot of the listservs and search ofs, kind of like networking with other therapists online to get referrals, and that
Yeah.
I always had a steady stream through that.
Cool. So your first like year-ish in the Reels membership, you grew from like 200 followers to 2,000 followers, but you didn't get any clients in that time. I'm curious how that sort of felt for you to see like externally things were working, right? Your Instagram page was growing, you had some stuff going viral, but it wasn't working for your practice and that you weren't getting clients. What did that feel like?
Yeah. So when I started it, it was kind of just let me try this out.
Yeah.
I didn't think too deeply into it, but I'm like, let me try this out. And I really had fun with it. It was just sort of this creative outlet. And it was uncomfortable at first to be on camera and do all the stuff and took a lot of time to set aside to create the reels and all that stuff, but it's super helpful with the reels membership. Um, and so as I was doing it, I stayed consistent with it where I was doing about 3 to 4 reels a week.
Yeah.
And after a while, like I just kind of looked at it as like a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't getting I wasn't getting a lot of results, but I was slowly, gradually growing. And with the time that I was committing to it, it felt like decent growth, but I wanted to get clients. So I was wondering, okay, when are we going to see something different? When am I going to start seeing some results here?
Yeah. Is that what motivated you to join PPA, or what was sort of like that tipping point for you?
So I had been going back and forth for a while about should I join PPA? Should I not? Like, do I want to spend the money, the time, the energy, all that? And then I had 2 reels that did really well. And it just kind of, made me feel super fabulous. So, like,
Yeah.
it just kind of sparked this excitement and motivation in me. So then I was like, okay, so this could really work, this could happen. And just from those 2 reels, I ended up going from about, I think I was around 1,000 followers, and then I increased to close to 2,000 followers.
Yeah.
So it was this major shift that gave me this kind of like this push to be like, all right, like let's get serious about this. And
Yeah.
then I decided to join PPI so that I could kind of just get more accountability, learn more of the skills of really what to do with my Instagram account.
Cool. So I know when you joined PPA in June of 2025, things shifted really quickly for you. And like a month later, you got your first 3 private pay clients from Instagram. Talk to us about that. Like, I think I hear a lot of times from therapists who are already established in private practice. They're like, oh, maybe I don't need PPA, or I've already been posting on Instagram. Like, I'm not getting results, but like, what else is there to really learn, kind of thing. I'm curious for you if you felt like there was something that switched, or what that was like.
Yeah, it was definitely a game changer because I went into PPA. I kind of cheated a little bit and didn't do the whole course. I did
Yeah,
bits
you
and
don't have
pieces,
to.
right? But I really leaned into the group coaching calls that you host as
Yeah.
well. And so I was in there with my questions ready to go. And it was when I did the Instagram audit with you,
Yeah.
and you just helped me tweak, my bio and different little things on my Instagram account page to just really hone in on my niche and target audience. And then you mentioned the module about the ad template,
Yeah.
and that was the major game changer. So it was kind of like, I think from my perspective at least, I had grown my following enough to about 2,000 where my account looked legit,
Yeah.
and I had enough reels on there and content to speak to people. And then I did the very simple ad that you mentioned where it, just a little carousel post. And from that, I started getting clients, and I got my first 3 clients, including an EMDR intensive package in July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it's awesome because, like, for years you had been putting in the work of building an audience and nurturing that audience. And that's something that I really see, like, for the folks who get really amazing success in PPA, like month one, it's almost always that scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like very rarely did somebody make an Instagram page from scratch and now month one they're getting clients. Like,
Right.
I do like to level set expectations there a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's amazing when you've already sort of grown an audience but haven't been able to convert them yet, how something simple, like with a shift in your strategy of, niching down a little bit more, having more clear call to action in your bio, and running an ad can really make all the difference in taking those existing followers and like actually making them into therapy clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I was blown away by it because the ad is very simple. I was like, is this really going to make a difference? And it was, yeah. And I continue to invest in it and have that ad running, and it continues to get clients. So it's been super helpful.
Yeah. What does your private practice look like now?
So now I'm mostly private pay.
Yeah.
So I think currently I have 4 insurance-based clients on my caseload, and about 22 private pay clients. I got 9 of those clients I got from Instagram,
Amazing.
and other ones just from different referral sources. And over time, I've had more from Instagram because I've also done a lot of intensives. So they don't always stay on my caseload for long term.
Yeah.
But I have a nice steady caseload of clients that are private pay and out of network, and clients that I really love working with. So very much in my niche, because a lot of them are finding me through Instagram, or they're finding me through other sources like Google or whatever, Psychology Today, and they're checking out my Instagram. So I'm really getting those clients that I'm kind of like speaking to, which
Yeah.
is really nice.
Let's chat about EMDR intensives for a bit, because I feel
Yeah.
like that's something that is becoming a lot more popular lately and folks are super interested in doing.
Mhm.
How do you market those on Instagram? And do you sort of like take a different approach than one-on-one therapy, or you just kind of like get on an intro call and I'll take it from there?
Yeah, so I don't market it on Instagram really any differently than just how I'm marketing myself as an EMDR trauma therapist,
Yeah.
right? And I have information on my Instagram, and sometimes might make reels here and there about the EMDR intensive option, but generally it's just, somebody who's looking for EMDR. They set up an intro call with me, we discuss it, and then I educate them about the option for EMDR intensives, and how that it can be, you can get through it much more quickly by doing it in the intensive format, and that people tend to really like that if they have the time and energy.
Yeah. And so people aren't necessarily coming to you saying, hey, I want to do an EMDR intensive, but during that consult call, you're sort of making that recommendation, or?
Sometimes they are.
Yeah.
I would say, like, I mean, maybe half of them,
Yeah.
maybe a quarter of them, because I have on my website, I have a whole page on EMDR intensives.
Yeah.
So sometimes I might link that into my stories, or if they get to my profile on Instagram, then they get to my website, and they read about that, or somehow they might find about it. So some people know about it and as an option, and they know that's what they want to do. And then usually like that, we book right then and there.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, I kind of tell them about it, they have to sit with it for a bit, and some of them go for it. Others just do regular weekly sessions.
Gotcha. EMDR intensives have been like pretty cool for your practice. How much revenue have they brought in so far since you started offering them?
So since I started offering them, I think it was about 8 or 9 months ago, just from the EMDR intensives, I've brought in about $20,000.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, when I did the numbers, I was like, holy crap.
How does that feel
Yeah.
to like say out loud and really sit with that?
It it feels really good because it's, the Instagram stuff is the long game, right?
Yeah.
I've never been so consistent with something in my life. And I feel like because I've stayed consistent, it's worked. And so seeing, the the consistency with my Instagram, seeing that, I've invested some money into Instagram ads, and then seeing that it's brought me $20,000
Yeah.
in 8 months is just like, wow, okay, this has all been worth it, and this is what I need to continue to do.
Yeah. And that's just intensives, right? That's not even like
Yeah,
the
that's just
one-on-one therapy
intensive.
clients either.
Right.
Amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned like you've never been so consistent in your life with something. I'm curious, like if you're somebody who's kind of like started and stopped a lot of different marketing strategies, or like what that's looked like for you.
Yeah. So the one thing I've been consistent with in my life is yoga.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, like when it comes to work, it's just I've tried so many different things because I love all the things, and I can get easily caught up in this course and that course and just trying all the things. And I think with your Reels membership, it just makes it so easy. You get the weekly email on Mondays, and it's got 4 reels, kind of done for you, where you plug in your own stuff, and it's doable. It's not 10. It's not,
Yeah.
so I was able to stick with it, and also I had fun with it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it was this exciting part of work that I looked forward to, and it gave me the accountability. So somehow I was able to stay consistent with it, even though for the first year I wasn't getting clients from it. But I stuck it out because I knew, and I also listened to your podcast a lot. And I was just constantly reminding myself, okay, like this can work, this can work.
Yeah.
And then it did.
You mentioned like having fun with Instagram, which I think is so important. Did you, like, when you started your Instagram page, were you somebody who like found that idea really appealing? Had you like made reels for fun on your personal page before? Did it feel fun in the beginning, or did it feel like something you didn't really want to do? I'm curious about that.
So it felt like something that would be cool to do. I don't use my personal Instagram. I
Yeah.
barely do. I don't even log into it. And so I wasn't used to making stories, reels, anything. I had no idea. And so, but so back when I was in high school, I used to be into acting, and
Yeah.
I always wanted to be an actress. So it was kind of like this other side of me that I had pushed down was able to have an outlet. So it was just kind of fun at first, and I felt a little bit embarrassed at first being out there and putting it out there, because most, probably half, if not all, of the 266 followers I started with were my friends
Yeah.
and family. So it was kind of like, but the more I did it, it just became easier. Like at first I would do my hair, put on eyeliner, like, and now I'm just like hair in a ponytail, no makeup, and just like whatever. And and sometimes do my hair.
I can relate to that so much. And I think it's super important that there's at least like a part of you that wants to do Instagram, right? Like, I love Instagram. I think it's like the best tool to build a private pay practice. But if you're somebody who like, no part of that sounds fun. I absolutely hate the idea of showing up on camera. I hate the idea of being on Instagram. Like, there's other ways to build a practice. And it's not to say like, it shouldn't feel scary. It shouldn't feel embarrassing. It shouldn't feel challenging to be outside of your comfort zone. But I think there does have to be like a little bit of a draw to it. Because it is, you do have to put a lot of yourself into it, like personality wise. And it is super embarrassing to show up in front of your friends and family and like make these silly little videos. Yeah.
And then it's also the little things like, I speak to women with childhood trauma, and everything that I say in my reels doesn't necessarily apply to my personal life.
Yeah.
Right? Some of it might, some of it doesn't. And so, then I get feedback from family members and friends of my parents, like, oh, like, I can't believe she said that. Oh, like, what does that mean? It's like, so it's like, that's been something to navigate too. Like, being okay with putting it out there and people assuming things or asking questions, and, the shock factor for some of the reels, right?
Yeah. I'm curious if you've had any like proactive conversations with family members about that, or.
Yeah. I mean, I've had, so a lot of them, or some of my family members, just think like, that's such personal stuff. Like there have been ones that I put out there that they know that it is related to something in my life.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh my gosh, right? And I've explained that therapists are different in 2026. Like we're not just a blank slate. We don't have to keep everything in. And I'm not divulging all the personal details of my life. Like this is something that is more, it's specific, but it's also general, that can speak to a lot of people and help people feel heard and seen. So it's still like some of the older generation, like they're kind of like, oh my goodness, but they understand it once I talk through it with them.
Yeah, I always try and put like POV ... on anything that's like too personal, especially family stuff. My dad listens to this podcast, so hi, Dad.
Nice. Yeah.
But I feel like oftentimes I'll talk about like, boomer parents and like, this eldest daughter, and, some of it does relate to me and some of it is sort of like the character of the eldest daughter, right? That like maybe me or may not, depending on the day.
Right.
And so I've liked to just sort of tell my parents out of like, you know, sometimes it's about me, sometimes it's about my clients, right? And by
Mm-hmm.
saying POV, it sort of takes off a little bit of that
Right.
personalness of
Right.
it,
Yeah.
and can sort of give you a little bit anonymity there, or at least the question mark of anonymity.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's kind of fun, like making it the question mark, right?
Yeah.
Keeping them at the edge of their seats.
I'm curious too. So you hired 2 associates for your practice, is that right?
Correct.
What has it been like for you to sort of like use your Instagram to get clients for them? Are you marketing them directly or like taking your own leads and sort of sending it to them? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And the first associate I had, she's been with me for a while now, and she's kind of stuck through with like the ebbs and flows. And then the second one that joined, she kind of joined around the time that my Instagram started really doing well with converting clients. And I was filling her caseload. So what I found is I've been able to market myself. So people come to my page, kind of like seeing my vibe.
Yeah.
And there's been clients when my caseload is full, or if they have insurance, I'm able to kind of hand them off to introduce them to the other therapists. And my one of the therapists, the one that came on second, she's I think she has about 7 clients that are insurance,
Yeah.
in network insurance from Instagram, and one that's out of network private pay. And the other therapist who was here first, she like her caseload was already mostly full, and she has one private pay from Instagram. So it's just been recent that I've filled my caseload, and so I'm starting to introduce some referrals.
Yeah. It seems like maybe it's a little bit easier to sort of pass off those referrals that are coming from Instagram to an associate when you tell them that she takes insurance or.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to go through all the numbers,
Yeah.
right? I've been doing that this week, and it's been fun, uh, and because I have gotten so many insurance, so many intro calls booked with potential clients that have insurance.
Yeah.
And I was feeling like, oh, so many of them are rolling in, like there's so much of that. But it's still, at the end of the day, when you look at the numbers, people, potential clients that are wanting to be private pay or out of network, convert way easier than insurance.
Yeah.
But still got 7 insurance-based clients. But yeah, it was just interesting to look at that.
That is so interesting. I'm curious, like, sort of how you perceive that as somebody who's like being on the intro calls with folks. Um, do you think it's like a more like commitment or more like attachment to you from the private pay people, or what do you think is kind of going on there that it's easier to convert them?
I I feel like there's certain clients that no matter what their income situation is, it's like if they know they specifically want a specific EMDR therapist, that also is holistic, focuses on mindfulness and yoga, they know what they want, and they're willing to commit the time, the money, the energy.
Yeah.
Versus clients that are using insurance, it's not that they're not serious about it, but it's less of an investment, right? It's maybe a $25 copay. So I think a lot of them are initially interested, so they just go ahead and book the intro call, but then they don't show up.
Yeah.
Or they show up and they're just like, like it's not the right time. Whereas like somebody who's booking an intro call that is willing to spend $200, they're serious about that intro call.
Yeah. I think that's such a good perspective because I feel like a lot of people, when they're struggling to get clients, their first thought is like, oh, it's probably the fee. Maybe I should take insurance, or maybe I should drop my fee or offer a sliding scale. But it almost sounds like it's the opposite by like having a high fee and positioning yourself as like, the best of the best and having a really specific modality and approach. You're able to find people who are a lot more serious about starting therapy.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to that.
So cool.
Yeah.
When you are sending folks to your associates, are you sort of like doing the intro call with the client and then like recommending the associate, and then are they doing another intro call, or are you just sort of like scheduling them? What does that process look like?
So I'm experimenting with that and trying different ways. Initially, I was doing the intro call, and so sometimes I'm doing the intro call and I just get a sense or an intuition that they would be a better fit for
Yeah.
one of the associates. So then I bring that up, and then I say, you want to have an intro call with them, and then I set up an intro call with them, and they have it, and then they end up working together. Other times, what I've been trying to streamline things, when my caseload is full, or if it's an insurance based client, then I send an email to that interested client
Yeah.
and I say, hey, it sounds like you'd be a really good fit for this therapist in my practice. CC that therapist on it. And sometimes the transition works, other times it doesn't. I've
Yeah.
also worked with trying to coordinate the intro call schedules to be like the same so that there's one less step so that they
Yeah.
can just, I can say, all right, like, this therapist is going to meet with you at this time
Yeah. So you
as
can
well.
sort of like change who's coming to the appointment, but the client doesn't need to change their time and reschedule there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
really smart.
Yeah.
Do you work with your associates on like their skills with intro call conversions or?
I haven't had to because they're
Yeah.
amazing at it. Like they're like I had like, initially one of my first hires who's no longer with me, like I worked with her a little bit, but Belle and Hunter who work with my practice, like they're just when they have an intro call, I want to say like 50% of the time they convert it, if not
Yeah,
more.
amazing.
So I haven't had to. Although I did kind of I have a manual where I outline kind of details of what to focus on. So a little bit, but I
Yeah,
haven't had to do much. Yeah.
cool. So I know you mentioned like staying really consistent with Instagram, and in the beginning that was like 3 to 4 reels a week,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like following the Reels membership. I think now you're posting a little bit less than that and sort of like supplementing with ads. Can you talk us through what that's looked like for you? Maybe like a little bit about your ad spend and
Mm-hmm.
whether or not that's impacting results positively or negatively.
Yeah. So the first couple of years, like I said, I was really consistent and I did my 3 or 4 reels a week. There was an occasional week or here that I maybe did 1 or 2, but really for about a year and a half, 2 years, I was consistent with that. And then once I started the ad, I found that my followers just kept growing even if I
Mm-hmm.
slacked off at certain times. So, given that I've had a lot going on both in my business and my life, I've been able to, some weeks post 1 reel, like even some weeks not post any reels, but I would say on a consistent basis, probably posting about 1 or 2 reels a week
Yeah.
the last maybe 6 months. And it's continued to grow. Um, I want to continue posting more, so like I plan on like getting more active with it because I feel like I could just do even, I could perform even better. And
Yeah.
but it's nice to know that I can step back a little bit. And in terms of ad spend, so I started in July. July 2025.
Yeah.
I started and I basically spend about $450 a month.
Yeah. And so I have your numbers here that you shared before the episode,
Okay.
so I'll just read it to folks. So
Yeah.
in that time, you've spent $3,500 total,
Yep.
and gotten over 2,700 followers directly from ads, which
Mhm.
is really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible like how much it's shifted it. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus those 22 one-on-one therapy clients and like $16,000 of intensives directly from Instagram.
Yep.
So I feel like it's so cool to see like that ads can really help to make a strategy that's already working more sustainable, right? Like
Mhm.
when we have the reels that are already performing, they're already growing your followers, we can add that sort of like conversion focused content and it can grow your followers by, thousands of people every
Mhm.
year and also get those followers to like convert into therapy clients.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm curious what advice you would give to somebody who feels like they're posting, semi consistently, but not converting into clients yet.
Well, anybody that I meet through PPA, I tell them, have you done the ad template yet?
Yeah.
So that's like number one. And also to not be afraid to invest a little bit of money in it, because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people don't invest much into it in terms of money. And so if you do, I'm doing $15 a day.
Yeah.
And it might seem like a lot, but you can experiment with it for 7 days and see how it does.
Yeah. And I think what's really cool too is like, I definitely struggled with this in the beginning when I started my practice. I don't know if you can
Mm-hmm.
relate, but having a virtual practice, it almost feels like there should be no expenses and that any expense is wrong or like a sign that you're not
Mm-hmm.
doing something right or you're taking away your income or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as I've shifted more into running like an actual business, I'm sure, you have
Mm-hmm.
two associates who are definitely in that, like, no, I'm a business owner
Mm-hmm.
mindset. You sort of start to realize like how important and necessary spending is, and like spending $3,500 on marketing in a year is like very, very low. Like that is amazing profit margin still. And I would say that that's like on the higher end of ad spend for therapists and PPA.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like challenging for you to sort of like make that mindset shift in the beginning, or since you were already a few years into private practice, did that sort of come easier to you?
Yeah, I mean, when I started out, I was just doing Alma, where I paid $125 a month, I think it was,
Yeah.
to run my practice. Like, I really, and my EHR subscription.
Yeah.
So I wasn't spending any money, but I knew if I wanted to transition to private pay, I was going to have to do things differently. And I started by experimenting with boosting reels.
Yeah.
So if I had a reel that did well, then I just boosted a little bit. So that made me start to feel comfortable with the concept of spending money on marketing on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was continuing with that until I figured out the ad template. And then I've just focused on boosting that one as an ad. And it's, I've kind of just gotten used to it because it's as soon as you get clients from it, then I mean, you make your money back. So it's
Yeah.
just, to me, it's a no brainer that I need to do that in order to get the clients, and I make the money back tenfold.
Yeah,
Not
I think
tenfold,
that
but
return on investment is important.
yeah.
With your ad, I assume yes, since it was like 1 month after you joined PPA,
Mhm.
but did it click right away? I know a lot of folks in VIP sometimes they'll, sort of share their ad before posting, and then we'll take a look at their data and see, okay, maybe they got one or two clients, but we might need to optimize it a little bit more. Did you have to go through that process at all, or was it kind of like first draft just sort of worked?
Yeah, it just sort of worked. I think July, so I think I put it up July 24th, and in August, I got 3 private pay clients
Yeah,
from Instagram.
amazing.
So, yeah. And it's worked since. And, there's been months that haven't done as well. December, I got 5
Very cool.
clients that were private pay. So, yeah, it seemed to work well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Where can folks find you who want to connect or look at your page for inspiration?
Yeah, you can find me at Holistic Trauma Therapy on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, but I don't really get on there much. And my website is wildflowertherapygroup.com, and it's a virtual practice in North Carolina. So, yeah,
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jaclyn.
thank you. It's been wonderful.